That summer when I was 18, Charles led me to taste the forbidden fruit. I endured the pain but secretly felt happy the whole night, believing that my 6 years of secret admiration had finally paid off. Until the next day, when I overheard his friends teasing him. Not bad. Huh? The class bell was your first. I felt embarrassed and was about to slip away quietly. Then I heard Charles respond casually, as if it was nothing. Actually, I wanted to go after the school bell, but I was afraid she'd think I was too inexperienced. So, I had to practice my skills with Valentina first. I didn't say anything at the last moment. I silently changed my university application from Beijing to Guangdong. Chapter 1. Charles's words struck me like a sudden thunderclap on a clear day, catching me completely off guard. My mind went blank in an instant. On this sweltering summer afternoon, my entire body felt ice cold. The conversation in the classroom continued. The group seemed stunned for a moment before speaking again. Classic Charles, only the class bell is good enough for him to practice on. Doesn't that basically make her like one of those servant girls in ancient noble families? Charles chuckled carelessly. What nonsense. It's not like she lost anything, okay? Someone immediately chimed in. Yeah, though she's a bit too skinny compared to the school bell. Her figure is just. Annoyed, Charles threw a book at him, cutting him off. It was just in the heat of the moment. The atmosphere was already there. Besides, she didn't seem to be holding back either. The group exchanged knowing looks and started teasing him. Didn't expect the class bell to be the quiet but wild type. TSK. Our Charles is just too charming. A free meal right in front of you, why not take it? The class bell clung to Charles for so many years. Guess she finally got what she wanted. She must have been waiting to throw herself at you for ages. The laughter in the classroom grew louder. I bit my lower lip hard, clenching my fists tightly. It took all my strength just to keep myself steady, to stop myself from collapsing right at the classroom door. Footsteps approached from the end of the hallway. I snapped back to reality and fled in panic. In my desperation, I locked myself inside a bathroom stall. Chapter 2. Tears of heartbreak and humiliation had long since overflowed. Charles's words echoed in my mind, over and over again. Every single syllable shattered what little self-respect I had left. Had I not heard it with my own ears, I would never have believed that the man who had held me so intimately last night, entwined with me in passion, was the same person. So, it turns out that love isn't necessary for such intimacy. Even in moments of deep emotion and reckless abandon, one can still lie and deceive. The relationship I had foolishly believed to be my happily ever after was nothing more than a joke to others. The more I cried, the worse I felt. Yet I didn't even dare to make a sound, my body trembling uncontrollably. After a long while, my phone chimed with a message. It was from Charles. Take a cab home by yourself. My class has a gathering tonight. It's inconvenient for me to bring you along. I didn't reply. A moment later, another message followed. Make sure to buy the morning after pill yourself. I'm busy today. Don't forget to take it. Be good. I stared at the two messages, speechless. From dusk till dawn yesterday, Charles had taken me again and again. By the end, we were both utterly exhausted. Before drifting off to sleep, he had murmured twice. It was unplanned this time. I'll make sure to buy the pills for you tomorrow. He even reminded me that as a girl, I needed to take care of myself. That missing the pill could harm my body. At the time, I thought he was being responsible, that I had finally found my happiness. But now, in an instant, clarity struck me. I dug my nails into my palm, forcing back the tears, wiping my face. I straightened up and walked out of the restroom, too embarrassed to go to the pharmacy in person. I ordered the pills online. When the delivery arrived, I waited a long time before cautiously retrieving the package from my doorstep. With tears in my eyes, I swallowed the pill. As I sat on the carpet, staring blankly into space, I felt like all my strength had drained away. For 10 years, since moving next door to Charles, I had followed him around like a little shadow. I never once considered what life would be like without him. I didn't dare to, but from now on, it would be just me. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the city lights flickered on, then off again. I had no idea how much time had passed when my best friend, Alice, called me on video. Tina, why didn't you come to our class party with Charles tonight? That girl from the literature class, Daniela, is here though, since you're not around. She's practically glued to Charles, throwing herself at him. As Alice finished speaking, she turned her camera around. In the dim corner of the private lounge, Charles sat closely next to Daniela. Tonight, Daniela wore a cropped top and a tight denim skirt, accentuating her slim waist and long legs. They were slightly distanced from the others. Even their conversation seemed intimately close, like a whispered exchange between lovers. Even through the screen, the atmosphere was undeniably suggestive. A sharp pain clenched my chest. Charles had said he was thinking of pursuing her this afternoon. Apparently, by tonight, he already had. Daniela was chosen in a game of truth or dare and had to do push-ups in the cowgirl position with a male partner of her choice. Predictably, Charles immediately volunteered. The group erupted in cheers. Blushing, Daniela obediently lay down on the sofa. Charles positioned himself above her and began doing push-ups, his movements precise and controlled. He seemed determined not to touch her until the final push-up. Whether from exhaustion or intent, he lost his balance and collapsed directly onto Daniela. The screams and laughter around them grew deafening, nearly shaking the walls. Both Charles and Daniela flushed an even deeper shade of red. Amid the crowd's wild encouragement, Charles suddenly leaned in and kissed Daniela. A deep, passionate French kiss. They were lost in it for 3 whole minutes before finally pulling apart, reluctant to let go. For those 3 agonizing minutes, I stared at the screen, motionless, barely remembering to breathe. It felt like my heart was being ripped apart. I wanted to cry, but after shedding so many tears earlier without drinking any water, I had none left to shed. TSK. Tina, did you see that? They were practically drooling all over each other, Alice remarked, clicking her tongue before turning the camera away and stepping outside. She found a quiet corner and spoke seriously. Tina, don't be mad at me. If I didn't make you see this with your own eyes, you wouldn't have let go. My throat was dry and hoarse, my words barely audible. I'm not mad at you. I could only blame myself for being blind all these years. I thought that because Charles had let me stay by his side for so long, that position would always be mine. I just can't stand how he acts all innocent, knowing you've loved him for so long, but still stringing you along, letting you fall deeper and deeper. You saw everything just now. I really hope you take this seriously. Don't let him waste another 4 years of your life in college. He won't. Alice, I interrupted her, my voice calm. I won't give myself that chance again. Alice, I've decided I'm going to Guangdong with you for university, but you have to promise me. Keep it a secret for now. Chapter 3. As soon as I finished speaking, to stop myself from hesitating, I opened my laptop in front of Alice. Without a moment's doubt, I changed my first choice university to that renowned school in Guangdong. Just before the deadline, Alice was so thrilled she practically jumped in excitement. She had been begging me to apply to the same university for ages. But back in our first year of high school, I had already made a promise to Charles that we would work hard together and, after the college entrance exams, go hand in hand to the place he had always dreamed of, Beijing. That was where his favorite aeronautics program was. Even though I never particularly liked the cold northern climate and had no strong feelings for that technical university. For 3 years, I made it my goal solely because of him. As neighbors for so many years, even our parents were supportive of us applying to the same university. Everyone, including myself, believed that once we became adults, Charles and I would naturally end up together. But now, I couldn't find a single reason to go to Beijing anymore. Or rather, after today, if I continued clinging to Charles like before, I wouldn't even be able to respect myself. I just wanted to get far away. It didn't matter where, as long as it wasn't where he was. He was heading north, so I would go south. Before bed, I filled the bathtub to the brim, hoping to wash everything off completely. But when I took off my clothes, the bruises on my skin were still starkly visible. Memories of last night surged back against my will. The searing warmth of his skin as we held each other tightly. His hot breath against my ear in moments of passion, the remnants of it all still seemed to linger in the air. I shook my head violently, desperate to rid myself of those absurd thoughts. grabbing the roughest bath towel I could find. I scrubbed my skin over and over again, not stopping until it turned raw and red, as if scrubbing hard enough could erase the most humiliating memory of my life. The only result was that I ended up in so much pain I couldn't sleep all night. As expected, Charles didn't send any messages. For the first time in 6 years, ever since we got our phones, our habit of saying goodnight to each other was broken. Maybe it was for the best. It would have happened sooner or later. Might as well start cutting ties tonight. I drifted in and out of restless sleep until nearly dawn. Just as I was slipping deeper into slumber, I suddenly felt something, like a feather-light kiss pressed gently against my forehead. Chapter 4. I jolted awake. The first thing I saw was a familiar jawline and Adam's apple. The scent surrounding me was Charles's favorite, cedarwood, mixed with a faint trace of an unfamiliar lemon fragrance. I had almost forgotten, Charles knew my front door passcode. Seeing that I was awake, he simply lowered himself further, chuckling as he attempted to kiss me on the lips. I turned my head away in panic, pushing him off. I scrambled to the other side of the bed. Charles paused for a second before teasing me with a smile. "Why so shy?" I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled the blanket over my head. Charles, ever persistent, yanked at my covers while chiding me. "Valen, getting bold now, aren't you? Didn't even say goodnight to me last night, and you had the nerve to turn off your phone and go to sleep? And now you're avoiding me?" Before I could react, he swiftly slipped under my blanket. I gasped as he wrapped me completely in his arms. "Come on now. How many times do I have to tell you? Breakfast is a must. I went for a run this morning just to bring you your favorite crab roe buns. Stood in line for ages. So, do you want to get up and eat them now, or should I eat first?" His breath was warm against my ear, and his hand began to wander. The haze in my mind cleared in an instant. I struggled with all my strength, but at 5 feet 3 inches, I was no match for a man standing 6 feet 2 inches. I couldn't understand him at all. He already had Daniela, so why was he still toying with me? I fought against him for a while, panting from the effort, but instead of breaking free, I found myself held even tighter. "What's with the tantrum now? Are you mad? Just because I didn't take you to the party last night?" I stayed silent. He buried his face in the crook of my neck and laughed. "Let me guess, your best friend ratted me out. It was just a game. Are you seriously jealous over that? You're still the same as always, whenever I get a little close to another girl. You sulk." I was beyond furious, not even knowing where to begin. The moment of clarity came swiftly. I remembered what I learned in military training. With all my strength, I drove my knee upward. Charles groaned in pain, loosening his grip just enough for me to escape from the bed. "Valentina!" Charles gritted his teeth, his face flushing red. I hurriedly threw on a jacket over my pajamas and rushed into the living room. I refused to stay in the same room as him, especially not in my bedroom. After a while, Charles followed me out, looking both annoyed and helpless. For a moment, he seemed to remember something and asked lazily, "By the way, you took the pill yesterday, right? Don't cause any trouble. I wouldn't know how to explain it to your parents." He walked over to the table, picked up a cup of soy milk, and held it out to me. "Here, drink something before you keep sulking. You know your stomach is weak." I neither spoke nor took the cup. Charles's hand hovered in midair for a long time before he finally lost patience. "What the hell is this about, Valentina? Even throwing a tantrum should have some reason and limit. Don't you think?" I replied coldly. "I'm not worthy." Charles's face darkened instantly. He slammed the cup onto the coffee table. The plastic cup cracked under the force, soy milk spilling all over the carpet. "What do you mean by that? Who do you think you are, Valentina? We slept together once, mutually, and now you think you can control me? Do you have any idea how suffocating that is?" His tone was harsher than ever before. Instantly, my tears poured down like rain. Without even a second of build-up, all the humiliation and pain from yesterday surged back in an overwhelming tide. Charles seemed caught off guard by my sudden outburst and fumbled awkwardly. With frustration, he muttered an apology. "Sorry. I drank too much last night. I got a little carried away just now." He crouched beside me, reaching out to wipe my tears, but I dodged him again. He froze, his hand suspended midair. Just as he was about to try again, his phone chimed. One glance at the screen, and his expression changed instantly. Without hesitation, he got up and started to leave. I have something urgent. Cool off by yourself. You're in college now, if you keep acting like a child. Who's going to put up with you? Less than half an hour after he left, Alice sent me a screenshot. It was a WeChat post from Daniela. Sunny days, said I was hungry. And poof! A love-filled breakfast appeared like magic. Feels like my crush and I are finally on the same page. The attached picture showed a breakfast set, the exact same crab roe buns Charles had brought to my house. Down to the packaging. I didn't reply. Silently, I wiped away my tears, crouched down, and carefully tried to clean the spilled soy milk from the carpet. I scrubbed for ages, only to realize in frustration that the stain had already seeped deep into the wool. Impossible to remove. Anger surged through me. I grabbed the entire rug and threw it out. It didn't matter, it was just something Charles had brought back for me from Nepal after a full afternoon of careful selection. Along with it, I gathered every single thing of his left in my home, every gift he had ever given me, every photo of us together. One by one, I packed them all up and threw them away. I spent the entire day cleaning him out of my life. Charles didn't contact me in the days that followed. Things must have been going well with Daniela, or maybe he was waiting for me to back down. In the past, every Cold War between us ended with me apologizing first, without exception. But this time, I didn't reach out, and I never would. I blocked his WeChat and phone number, changed my door passcode, and deleted all my social media accounts. With everything settled, I called my parents, who were on a business trip. I told them I wanted to visit my aunt in the US for the summer. The plan was simple. By the time summer ended, I would leave straight for university in Guangdong with Alice. No one but Alice knew about my decision. This plan would ensure I avoided every possible encounter with Charles. On the phone, my mom teased me. "Oh, are you and Charles planning a little vacation together?" I brushed it off with an excuse, not wanting to explain. I simply told her I wanted to spend time with my aunt and grandma. I begged my dad to book me the earliest available flight. I was ready to leave that very night, but just as I was about to step out, I ran into Charles's mother at the villa entrance. She greeted me warmly. "Tina, what are you doing here alone? Charles didn't come pick you up. Didn't he say he was taking you on a skiing trip to New Zealand? Have fun, dear." I fully support it. I froze. Back during exam prep, I had indeed told Charles that I wanted to experience a Southern Hemisphere winter and go skiing in New Zealand. But given how things stood between us now, why would he still plan a trip like that? There was no time to dwell on it. I muttered a quick excuse and hurried off. What I never expected, however, was that at the airport, I would run into Charles. Chapter 5. He was with a group of friends. Daniela was there too. Charles carried a woman's handbag in one hand while keeping his other arm around Daniela. They walked at the back of the group. Every so often, Daniela would tilt her head to say something to him, and Charles would always lean down patiently to listen. Not like us. Charles had always been taller than me. He kept growing while I stayed the same. Whenever I wanted to talk to him, I had to tiptoe, bouncing slightly just to reach his ear. Turns out, for someone he truly cared about, he was willing to lower himself first. I took a deep breath, told myself to have some dignity. What he did had nothing to do with me anymore. If I kept overthinking, I'd slap myself awake. But there was only one path leading to the boarding gates. I had no choice but to trail far behind them. After what felt like forever, we finally reached a fork in the corridor. Charles seemed distracted. He made several phone calls, but none of them connected. He kept fiddling with his phone, frustration clear on his face. Eventually, he borrowed a friend's phone and, looking visibly annoyed, disappeared into a nearby restroom. Moments later, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "Valentina, looks like you're really mad this time. You won't even call me unless I reach out first? You even blocked me? Fine. Have it your way. Just don't come crying to me when you get to Beijing and don't know anyone there to take care of you." Charles's tone was sharp, his words relentless as he continued lecturing me. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. He only seemed to get more irritated by my silence. I don't have time for this. Just unblock me on WeChat already. I'm about to fly out with some friends for a couple of days. Might not have good reception. So don't go worrying yourself sick. I couldn't even be bothered to respond. I simply hung up and turned off my phone. From a distance, I watched Charles return to his group, face dark with frustration. Without another moment of hesitation, he grabbed Daniela's hand and headed toward the left gate. I sighed, turning right. During my time in the US with my relatives, I put on a happy front. I kept myself busy, filling my days with activities to avoid any gaps that might lead to overthinking. And, of course, I never added Charles back. Still, Alice and some other friends would occasionally update me on his whereabouts. Apparently, Charles and his friends had spent quite a while in New Zealand. For some reason, he had been unusually diligent about posting updates every day. This was a stark contrast to the Charles I knew, the one who barely bothered with social media for months at a time. His posts varied, short clips of him skiing at high speed, pictures of extravagant meals, wild all-night parties. But the most frequent ones were group photos, laughter and mischief on full display as they played around in the snow. Even though I had no interest in following his life, people kept sending me his posts. Everyone seemed curious, asking me in subtle ways why I hadn't gone to New Zealand with him. I didn't know how to explain, so I just brushed it off, saying I had family matters to attend to in the US. Other than Alice, who outright called him a scumbag every time. Most people hesitated to say much in front of me. I knew why. They had noticed it too. In every photo Charles posted, he and Daniela were side by side, inseparable. But that spot next to him had been mine for so many years. Every time I saw those pictures, my face remained calm, but deep down, my heart would tighten with a dull ache. After all, he was my first love, the one I had sincerely cherished for so long. In the quiet hours of the night, I still found myself mourning the loss. There were moments of bitterness, of unwillingness to let go, but then I would remember his cruel words, and I would mentally slap myself again and again. Valentina, don't be pathetic. Don't give him more reasons to look down on you. Just endure a little longer. Once this withdrawal phase is over, everything will be fine. We had gone an entire month without speaking, the longest Cold War we had ever had. Distance and time were the best medicine. I had made it through the hardest part. I was finally at a point where I could go days without thinking of him. And just then, Charles changed his number and called me from overseas. Chapter 6. Valentina, you're really something. Huh? Took off to the US and didn't even tell me. You've been there for so long. Summer's almost over. Did you forget you promised to travel with me? Maybe because we hadn't spoken in so long. His voice held a rare hint of hesitation behind the complaints. I still didn't want to talk to him. I was about to hang up when Charles's mother snatched the phone. Tina, sweetheart, are you enjoying your time over there? Charles, this boy, he never tells me anything. I only just found out you two had a fight. Don't be too hard on him, okay? When you come back, make him apologize to you in person. Oh, by the way, Charles got his acceptance letter today. Yours should be arriving soon too. When are you coming back for your graduation party? I have a surprise for you. Charles's mother had always been kind to me, like a real aunt. I couldn't bring myself to hang up on her, so I simply listened as she rambled on. Auntie, I'm not planning to have a party. My parents are busy traveling all over the place, and my relatives can just send their congratulations online. I probably won't be coming back anytime soon either. I'll just return in time for school registration. Before I could finish, Charles was back on the line. His breathing was heavy, his anger palpable even across the Pacific. Valentina, I'm already lowering myself to make peace. How long are you going to keep sulking? If you don't come back soon, don't blame me for heading to Beijing without you. His words were cold, a warning. He waited for my response. But when none came, he added, think carefully, don't regret it. I hung up immediately and blocked the number. I sat in a daze for a while before deciding to take a walk outside. But just as I stepped out, my mom called me on video. It turned out my acceptance letter had arrived at home. When my parents saw which university I had chosen, They were completely shocked. Tina, why didn't you discuss this with us before changing your choice? Does Charles know? His mom was just asking me this morning if your acceptance letter had arrived. Dad peered into the camera with concern. Sweetheart, how can we feel at ease with you going to Guangdong all alone? Aren't you terrified of heat and cockroaches? You really think you can survive there? Don't call me crying when you need me to come catch a cockroach for you. I had no words, so I blurted out all the good things about my chosen university and reassured them that Alice would be with me. But they were still uneasy. Did you and Charles fight? Even so, you shouldn't make such a big decision out of impulse. What if you regret it in a few days and want to go looking for Charles? Then what? Exactly. You're choosing long distance for 4 whole years. You couldn't even last 2 weeks at your grandma's during summer break without whining to come home to Charles. The more they talked, the worse I felt. So I decided to lay everything out once and for all. Charles has a girlfriend now. It wouldn't be right for me to stay that close to him. Mom, Dad, I have my own life. I don't want to live in his world anymore. Please, just support my decision and don't tell anyone yet. My parents exchanged glances, silent for a long time before finally agreeing. The only condition they had was for me to return home soon. School was starting soon, and they wanted to spend more time with me before I left. Mom mentioned that after receiving his acceptance letter, Charles had gone on another trip with friends the very next day. He hadn't been home for days. Meanwhile, his mother kept asking my mom when I would be back. The day I returned, my parents were both dressed formally when they came to pick me up at the airport. I fell asleep in the car, but when I woke up, I realized we had stopped in front of a 5-star hotel. Still groggy, I was being pulled inside by my mother. And then, just as we stepped into the grand lobby, I saw Charles. I froze. He stood near the fountain in a perfectly tailored suit. His tall, lean frame effortlessly elegant. Over just one summer, the boyishness had faded from his features, leaving behind the version of him I had once imagined he would grow into. An indescribable mix of emotions swirled inside me. After all the effort I put into avoiding him, our reunion happened so abruptly. I must have looked stunned because my mother whispered an explanation. Tina, today is Charles's graduation party. We figured we'd pick you up and come straight here for dinner. Dad added casually. Tina, you didn't want to have a party, right? Charles thought ahead and had his parents schedule this for the day of your return, so it's kind of a joint celebration for you both. As if sensing my presence, Charles glanced over. Our eyes met. My heart skipped a beat, even though I had mentally prepared myself for this moment while I was in the U.S. I still felt nervous when it finally happened. Charles reacted first. He was about to walk toward me when Daniela suddenly appeared, linking her arm through his. Smiling brightly, she pulled him along as they approached. Valentina, you're back? Daniela beamed. That's great! I finally get to meet you properly. I always saw you and Charles together back in school, but since I was in the other class, we never got the chance to talk. It's such a shame. She was being so polite that I had no reason to ignore her. Forcing a weak smile, I simply nodded. Charles's expression turned slightly stiff. He spoke in a deliberately casual tone, but there was an odd edge to it. What's there to meet? She's just a sulky little brat who loves throwing tantrums. I honestly thought she had run away to the US for good. I said nothing. I didn't know how to respond. Daniela, in her glittering silver gown, shone under the lights, perfectly complimenting Charles in his sleek suit. I looked down at myself. A plain white t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. My hair was still messy from sleep. I looked like I had just come back from picking up a package at a delivery station. My mom suddenly remembered something and whispered in my ear. I got you a dress. You can change in the makeup room later. I shook my head. There was no need. I wasn't the main character here. Charles kept watching me, his expression unreadable. Daniela's gaze flickered between us. The air grew thick with awkward silence. Thankfully, a group of friends arrived just in time, and Daniela immediately pulled Charles away to greet them, radiating the confidence of a hostess. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly tugged my mother inside the banquet hall. Chapter 7. Charles's graduation banquet was only for close friends and family, so there weren't too many people in attendance. When familiar faces saw me, their surprise was obvious. I merely smiled and greeted them, pretending not to notice. But their eager, gossip-hungry expressions were impossible to miss. Even when I just stepped out onto the balcony for some fresh air, I could still hear a few friends cornering Charles in the hallway, trying to pry information out of him. "Didn't you say Valentina cut ties with you over the whole thing with the campus bell? So, she still couldn't let go and came looking for you?" Charles let out a low chuckle. "She's just being childish. Give it a couple of days. She'll come around. We've known each other for too long. There's no way she'd actually cut me off for good." One of the guys sighed. "Honestly, Valentina's a good girl. You two have been together for years, and she practically does whatever you say. We all envy that. So now you've got a childhood sweetheart on one side and your dream girl on the other. Tough call. What are you planning to do?" Charles was silent for a moment before finally speaking. "To be honest, I think Valentina is great, but it just feels like a waste. I'm still young. What kind of man only has one woman for his entire life? Knowing exactly how it ends from the start would be too boring. I need to go out and explore, but that doesn't mean I have to give anything up. As long as I can always come back home, it's fine to enjoy the scenery elsewhere." A heavy silence followed. Then his friend chuckled and punched his arm lightly. "Damn, Charles, you really are a player." I couldn't listen anymore. I quietly walked away. The evening breeze brushed against my face as I took a deep breath, trying to calm the heat rising in my eyes. I hated myself for being so blind in the past, for seeing him in the wrong light. Tonight had been unbearable. The only comforting presence was Charles's mother, who was delighted to see me and kept fussing over me at the dinner table. "Tina, the weather in Beijing is dry tomorrow. Have Charles take you to the IFC mall to stock up on hydrating skincare products." "That's not necessary, Auntie. There are plenty of malls in Beijing, and online shopping is super convenient too." She chuckled and turned to my mom. "I've already prepared Tina's dorm essentials along with Charles's. Bed sheets for all seasons. Thick comforters, especially for winter. When it gets really cold, I even got her a few sets of down jackets. You're always busy, so no need to worry about her." My mom looked a little uncomfortable. Those things were completely useless in Guangdong, but not wanting to embarrass Charles's mother, she simply thanked her politely. Meanwhile, Daniela's expression had visibly soured, but Charles's mother didn't seem to notice. She continued speaking warmly, turning to us both. "Once you get to Beijing, you'll be each other's closest support. Charles, take care of Tina properly and don't make her upset again. Understood?" Charles shot me a look, his voice indifferent. "TCH, her wings are fully grown now. She doesn't need me. She can fly on her own." An awkward silence settled over the table. Then, Daniela suddenly spoke up, her voice light and sweet. "Auntie, my university is in Beijing too. Don't worry. I'll take good care of Charles. Besides, Valentina will be all the way in Guangdong, which isn't very convenient, right?" The moment she said that, Charles and his parents visibly froze. "Guangdong?" They all turned to me in unison. Daniela looked startled. "Charles, you didn't know? The honor roll list was posted at school." "Oh, right, you haven't been back, have you?" All eyes were on me, under the weight of their stares. I simply nodded. My mom spoke up to explain. "Tina changed her application at the last minute. She wants to study in Guangdong. It's a great university and a program she really likes." Charles didn't believe it. He grabbed my wrist, demanding confirmation. "Valentina, you're going to the same university as me. I saw you fill out the application with my own eyes." His grip hurt. Annoyed, I snapped back. "Yeah, I changed it." "What? Do you have a problem with that?" Charles looked at me in disbelief before laughing coldly. "You're joking, right? You, who jumps onto me at the sight of a cockroach. You're seriously going to Guangdong?" I pulled out my phone, opened my photo album, and displayed the high-resolution picture of my acceptance letter. I held it up in front of his face. Charles took my phone, zoomed in and out, staring at it for several long moments. Then, to everyone's shock, he let out a short, incredulous laugh. And in the next instant, he grabbed my wrist and dragged me straight out of the banquet hall. Chapter 8. Charles dragged me into the lounge and shut the door behind us. He leaned against the door, blocking my escape, his voice sharp and pressing. Valentina, well played. You really went and threw away our agreement just to spite me? Transferring to a university in Guangdong? I lifted my head, forcing myself to stand firm. I have my own dreams. Why should I have to shape my life around your preferences? Charles, be honest with yourself. Are you mad about our so-called promise? Or are you mad because I won't be your convenient backup anymore? His face paled. What the hell are you talking about? Do you have to make it sound so ugly? We're adults now. That night, wasn't it mutual? Or are you still hung up on that one night? I felt embarrassed, but I refused to look away. Charles, if you liked someone else, you could have just said so. I wouldn't have clung to you shamelessly. But you didn't like me, and yet, you let me chase after you like a moth to a flame. That must have felt pretty good. Huh? He still didn't get it. People don't walk away until they've exhausted every last bit of hope. His expression darkened, flushed red from anger. Or perhaps guilt. Do you even hear yourself? Valentina? What kind of nonsense? He couldn't finish. We've known each other since we were 8. We're 18 now. If you're choosing to betray this relationship, then let's not even be friends anymore. That was the last thing he said before storming out of the hotel. From that day until the moment I left for university, I never saw Charles again. Alice sent me a screenshot of his public relationship announcement with Daniela, but I didn't even bother opening it before deleting the message. I blocked all the mutual friends who still talked about him. There was no reason to care anymore. The only unfortunate coincidence was that, on the day I left for Guangdong, I ran into Charles at the airport. He was with Daniela. Of course, as we crossed paths, he greeted my parents out of politeness but didn't spare me a single glance. We walked past each other, neither of us looking back. Before boarding, I happened to glance sideways, and at that exact moment, I saw Charles entering his own gate. He cast a cold glance in my direction, then disappeared inside without hesitation. The person I had grown up alongside. From now on, our paths would never cross again. Finally, we're going in different directions. I wish you well. I whispered the words in my heart. After that, we went a long time without hearing from each other. I even told my parents not to mention him around me. In my new life, I made friends, joined clubs, and stayed busy. The past no longer held weight. I realized that revolving around one person for so many years had been incredibly dull. For the first time, I actually agreed with what Charles had said back then. The world is so vast, and life is so long, why tie yourself down to one person so soon? I was grateful that my university wasn't in a place with harsh winters, even though the humid spring and typhoon season were annoying, and cockroaches were indeed a nightmare. The sight of flowers blooming year-round made it easy to forget what winter even felt like. On New Year's, an old high school friend visited Guangdong. Alice and I took her out for dim sum. Casually, she mentioned Charles. Oh, he and Daniela broke up ages ago, with all the universities along Academy Road. He's been dating his way through them, one relationship after another. He's completely different from how he used to be in high school, no longer the cold, serious academic type. You wouldn't even recognize him now. I stayed silent. Alice shot our friend a warning look, signaling her to change the subject. She quickly did. That night, we watched the fireworks over the Pearl River. Counting down to midnight, Alice told me to make a wish. After I made one, I realized it was my first wish that had nothing to do with him. For 6 years, every single wish I had made was about Charles. And now, he wasn't in my future at all. I smiled. I had truly let go. For my first winter break in college, I missed my parents terribly. The moment exams ended, I rushed home. But the last thing I expected was, Charles was at the airport, with my parents, waiting to pick me up. Chapter 9. After half a year apart, both Charles and I had changed quite a bit. He looked thinner, and his hair was dyed though. Of course, he was still as good-looking as ever. I had never been good at reading people, but at least my sense of aesthetics had never failed me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been foolish enough to follow him around since we were kids. I hesitated only for a brief moment before walking over with a bright smile, greeting him naturally. "Charles, brother, you're here too?" His hand, which had been reaching for my suitcase, froze midair. He looked at me in shock. Our parents had tried countless times to get me to call him brother when we were younger. I had stubbornly refused. But now, with a new mindset, it just came out naturally. Charles, on the other hand, seemed unable to accept it. It took him a long time to steady himself before finally taking my luggage with slightly trembling hands. My mom leaned in and whispered. We ran into Charles at the airport entrance. He insisted on coming along to help pick you up. I smiled at her, signaling that it was fine. During the car ride home, I eagerly shared all sorts of funny stories about my university with my parents, making them laugh non-stop. I ignored Charles the entire time, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that he had been smiling the whole ride, lips curling up slightly despite himself. That day, it seemed like he wanted to come inside for a bit, but the three of us politely declined. Throughout the winter break, I was busy practicing driving during the day and hanging out with high school friends at night. I heard that Charles had come looking for me a few times but had missed me each time. I was surprised. I didn't think there was anything left for us to talk about. This year, both my grandma and aunt came back home for the Lunar New Year. The house was lively on New Year's Eve. After dinner, the elders gathered on the couch to watch the Spring Festival Gala while us younger ones learned how to play mahjong. Suddenly, Charles and his parents arrived at our doorstep, carrying bags of gifts. Our house is too quiet. Hope you don't mind us crashing your game, Charles's mom joked. In the past, our families had always spent the holiday together. This year, however, my mom had declined their invitation to dinner because of what happened between Charles and me. Still, with guests already here, it wasn't like we could turn them away. Charles naturally took a seat next to me, watching as I played. My cousins, unaware of our history, kept teasing us. I laughed and clarified each time. Charles, however, didn't look too pleased. At midnight, when we all went outside to set off fireworks, he suddenly pulled me aside, as if he had something to say. But before he could speak, my phone rang. Blushing slightly, I pulled my hand away and stepped aside to answer. It was Santiago, a friend I had made in university, a Guangdong local, bright and playful, the type of guy who always had a joke up his sleeve. He called just because he was bored and wanted to count down to the new year together. I didn't think much of it. It was the holidays, after all, so I kept him on the line, letting him listen in as we welcomed the new year. Right before hanging up, he chuckled. Actually, I just wanted to be the first one to wish you a happy new year. Happy New Year, Valentina. I laughed happily and wished him the same. We chatted for a bit longer before he finally hung up. When I turned around, Charles was standing behind me, his expression cold as ice. I had no idea how long he had been listening. Boyfriend? His voice was hoarse. Not quite yet. I thought for a moment before answering honestly. Charles was silent for a long time, thinking the conversation was over. I was about to head back inside when he suddenly spoke again. You know, out-of-town guys aren't always reliable. You should find someone local, someone you actually know well. I nodded. True, you never really know a person. I'll keep evaluating. Thanks for the advice. Charles, you should settle down too. It was as if I had struck a nerve. His expression darkened, and without another word, he turned and left the courtyard. I didn't think much of it. Charles had always been unpredictable. I used to think everything about him was great, but now, well, for the rest of the break, I spent my time visiting relatives and going on road trips with my parents. I barely stayed home and didn't run into Charles again. Before I knew it, winter break was over, and I was back at university. But the next day, I saw Charles standing at my campus gate. Chapter 10. Charles looked utterly exhausted, as if something terrible had happened. Charles, what are you doing here? I wanted to see what your university is like and check if you're doing well in Guangdong. I smiled and answered, I'm doing great. The food here is amazing. If you have time, look up some recommendations and try it yourself. He looked a little awkward and didn't reply directly. Tina, can't you go eat with me? Just this once? Before I could answer, another voice cut in. Sorry, but Valentina already has a date with me. You'll have to take a number and wait in line. Santiago walked over and stood between Charles and me, visibly tense. Their eyes locked, and sparks flew in the air. Valentina, did you come back to school early just for him? Charles's tone carried an emotion I couldn't quite place. I had no idea what he was thinking, but there was no need for me to explain anything to him. Sorry, Charles. We're heading to lunch now. See you around. I nudged Santiago, who was still frozen in place. Come on, didn't you say that farm-style restaurant was really far? Let's get going. Santiago let me drag him away but still shot Charles a glare before leaving. As we crossed the street, I glanced back. Charles was still standing by the campus gate, staring at us under the shade of the trees, looking unusually lonely. I once heard that after a breakup, women take a month to grieve before moving on. But men might take much longer to realize what they've lost, only then does their pain hit them full force. It seemed like Charles's delayed reaction had finally arrived. After months of playing around and an entire winter break in silence, he suddenly began appearing around me again. I had no idea what excuse he used to get permission from his school, but he kept showing up in Guangdong. He started sending me all kinds of gifts, flowers, bags, jewelry. I refused them all. Whenever he had nothing better to do, he would camp outside my dorm building, refusing to leave no matter how much anyone tried to persuade him. Whenever he found me, he would accompany me to class and eat lunch with me as if it were completely natural. Santiago was so annoyed that he sighed dramatically at me every day. He would occasionally throw in some sarcastic remarks, which made me laugh despite myself. Even Charles's mother called me multiple times. She told me that the university had already contacted his parents. If Charles kept skipping classes like this, he could end up being held back or even expelled. She pleaded with me to talk some sense into him. I was completely fed up. I had no idea what Charles was thinking. Back then, he had been determined to explore the world, refusing to be tied down, and now he was acting like some deeply devoted lover. I decided to confront him directly. When Charles realized why I had come to him, his emotions spiraled out of control. Tina, why can that guy Sue chase after you? But I can't? How long has he even known you? And how many years have we been together? There's no one in this world, apart from your parents, who knows you better than I do. No one is a better match for you than me. His words made me laugh in disbelief. Charles, do you really not remember what you did? Think about it. Did you ever take my feelings seriously? You just enjoyed the sense of superiority you got from having me chase after you. You thought that no matter how you treated me, I would never leave. You played with my heart however you pleased. I had hit a nerve. Charles's expression twisted, but he didn't deny it. Yes, I made mistakes in the past. I was young. I thought the world was full of temptations, and I didn't want to be tied down by you. I owe you a proper apology, Valentina. I'm sorry. For the first time, he looked genuinely sincere. Then, lowering his voice as if begging, he said, but even if you see me as a stranger now, don't I still have the right to pursue you again? Ever since you left, I've realized I don't know how to live without you. I can't even imagine a future where you're not part of my life. The evening wind by the river was strong, making my head ache. I took a long time to think before finally answering. To be honest, Charles, I've realized something since leaving you. When two people truly like each other, they don't have to constantly tiptoe around each other. For the first time, I can be myself. My emotions are no longer dictated by someone else's whims. And I suddenly realized, maybe what I felt for you back then wasn't love. Maybe I was just young and naive. Charles froze, as if he had been struck by lightning. It took him a long time before he spoke again, his voice filled with pain. But we promised. We said we would go to college together, study abroad together, travel the world together. Are you breaking all of those promises? For a brief moment, I hesitated. I nodded, then shook my head. You were the one who broke them first. And besides, I've already found someone I want to do all those things with. Charles's composure shattered. His eyes turned red. Stop. Tina, please, just stop. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but say one last thing. Maybe you don't actually love me. Maybe you just can't accept losing. Charles, it's time for you to move on too. I didn't wait for his response. Across the street, Santiago had been waiting for me for a long time. I ran over to him. As soon as I reached him, he took my hand without hesitation. Did you finally get rid of your ex-boyfriend? He joked. Did you tell him that from now on, I'm the one who'll handle all the cockroaches for you? He's not allowed to kill even one anymore. I laughed and laughed, almost bursting into tears. Before walking away, I glanced back one last time at Charles. He was still standing there by the river, motionless. People passed by, coming and going. Some were saying goodbye. Others were reuniting. But for Charles and me, this was our final farewell, like the rain that falls and fades away.